Well, we can just introduce Talking Trade to be a platform where we talk about trade, as the name implies. We basically have, we put in the efforts to see that we get resourceful people from different walks of life that relate to trade or export matters. And we come together first Saturday of every month, and then we have very insightful conversations about trade. How can we improve trade? How can we support people that are new into the business? How can we tap from the experiences of people that have been in the field over the years? And for those that have been a part of us before now, you may say, this is a new face. Well, maybe not a new name, but a new face. And it is my pleasure indeed to welcome you today and to stand in for Lady K, who has been the host. She's under the weather slightly and just recovering. But hopefully from the subsequent months, you'll get to see her face again. But feel free to reach out to her and send her your warm wishes if you're in contact with her. And remember, we have a very active community on WhatsApp. So beyond this 1 hour thereabouts where we talk about these issues, we have an ever active WhatsApp community that keeps the conversation going all day long, all week long, all month long. And you cannot afford to miss the insightful conversations and resources that our WhatsApp platform offers you. We'll put that in the chat, and we hope that you can connect with us on that platform. But more than that, you can access all the resources we have on our website, which is www.femiboyedeconsulting.com. Femi Boyede, for those that are not Nigerian, is spelled FEMIBOYEDE consulting.com. And there you would see links to all the previous episodes. I have put in the chat that link, and after this session today, you may just save that link somewhere. And after the session today, you can explore, I think, somewhere around 15 previous episodes that we've had over the years. I just want to do a very quick recap of what we did last month, October. Unlike previous months, we had it in the 2nd September, the 2nd Saturday of the month. And that was because we were honoring in commemoration of Nigeria's independence event. And we were grateful to discuss rebuilding a new economic future for Nigeria, agro exports to the rescue. And we do appreciate the insights from our guest, Mr. Captain John Okaku, on that. The link is also in the chat. You can check our website or the YouTube page, and you'll be able to learn from all that we did during the last episode. But that is that about that. Let's get into the business of today. And I would like to start that by welcoming the host, the convener, Mr. Femi Boyede, to give us some welcome speech. And we would move on to the guest speaker for today. So, Mr. Femi, if you're there, I will pass the mic to you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Sheyi. Thank you for swiftly accepting to stand, but you are not standing, to sit in for Lady K, who, as explained, is a little bit under the weather. Our hearts and our prayers are with her as she gets back onto her feet very quickly. On behalf of the Talking Trade team, I want to welcome everybody to the November edition of this program. Of course, like Sheyi has explained, Talking Trade actually started from a desire, a very burning desire to fill a gap that we identified, that is, for trade to be successful, for trade to be efficient, for it to be seamless, and most important, for it to be profitable. The major ingredient that people require is information. Information. And so we decided, let's have a platform where sacrificially we can bring to people who are interested and who can carve out the time, the needed information. And as those of you who have been with us have noticed, we have always attempted to bring issues that are topical, issues that are relevant, issues that will, at the end of the day's session, generate a kind of pathway to do things better for the individual, for the company, and for the countries of participants. That has been our commitment. And on behalf of this indefatigable team, I want to reassure you that that commitment will not wane. Talking about today, I had a discussion with our guest speaker. Coincidentally, I think we had that discussion for the first time. I was in the Gambia, where I spent about 3 weeks. Of course, trying to see how Nigerian MSMEs and their Gambian counterparts could also acquire the necessary exposure to trade internationally. And when I spoke with Mr. Onu, I immediately perceived that he's loaded, he's got such a deep well of information that I wasn't just satisfied to keep it within myself. Even if we arrived at suggestions and stuff and way forward for him, I thought that this was something that this group needs to hear, and the world needs to hear, and the authorities will hear. They will hear because it is also part of our commitment and the way we have been operating. Hello, can you guys still hear me?
Yes, please, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, yes, so it's been part of our commitment and the way we have been operating. Technically, directly after every session, we do produce a flip book, which is more like an e-book that summarizes the session, and we do share this with all the authorities. At a previous session, where very, very hot issues were constructively discussed, we came up with the coinage, speaking truth to power, which, although it sounds very aggressive, is actually meant to summarize what we're doing here. That is, we speak the truth to those who are in authority, and we have a fair proportion of participation from the public and the private sectors. The private sector being the practitioners, and like I love to say, at different times, they are either the victims or they are the beneficiaries of policies that are formulated and implemented by the public sector. So insofar as Nigeria is a government-led economy, it will always be important to periscope the policies and their effects and their impact on the field. And this is exactly what we want to do today. I want to appreciate our guest speaker, Mr. Fidelis Onu, who is the Director General of Delta Chamber of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, as well as the Executive Secretary of the Federation of South-South Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture. Of course, as I welcome you all, I want to, on your behalf, say a very big thank you to the Talking Trade team, the guys and the girls who are behind this session on a monthly basis and have been supportive since we started. Yeah, it's not a speech-making occasion, and I don't have any further addition, but to go back to the moderator as you bring up our guest speaker. Maybe you want to read out the house rules to make this session enjoyable. Thank you and have a lovely session. By the way, let me also mention that we will devote a significant amount of time to discussion of the issues that will be raised by the guest speaker. And we ask, because these summaries go back to them, no matter how painful it has been, no matter how challenging your experience has been, as you bring them up, we ask that you be as corporate, as polite as possible, and so that, as I think is one UK television program, so that we'll mind your language. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We really do appreciate that background. And of course, thank you for making this possible. Thanks for all the efforts that you do put into coordinating the behind the scenes to make sure that every month we do have high-level professionals that get to speak about the issues. And of course, we do not stop just there, but take the conversation further. So I want to say again to those that are just joining, thank you so much for joining. It will be great if you can share with your network, your contacts, your WhatsApp groups, or people that you think will benefit from this, so that more people can be part of the rich presentation from our guest speaker today, Mr. Fidelis Onu. I have just put in the chat the link to join, and I will just give maybe 1 or 2 minutes so that you can share that link with your network and we can have more people joining us. But while we do that, you may be wondering, what exactly are we looking out for today on the Talking Trade webinar? Well, the topic, as you all know, is speaking truth to power, unveiling the challenges of MSMEs in Nigeria. And we're pleased to have with us Mr. Fidelis Onu to share with us a case study, particularly from the South-South experience, but of course, it could be a replica of what other parts of the country are facing, or even people outside the country are facing. But more than just discussing about this issue, as always, we like to speak about recommendations and put forward recommendations, not just here on the call, but also in publications that follow after the call. Let me just see if we can, okay, just before we get Mr. Fidelis to join, I just want to rule out the ground rules. Please and please, if you've joined us, we like that you maintain some sort of decorum. Please, except you need to, you may not have to unmute your device. And if you need to unmute your device, you may have to use the raise hand function if you're unable to unmute from your place. We appreciate if you put your phone on silent mode so you avoid some sort of distractions. And most of all, we also like to build a community of people that can tap from each other's wealth of knowledge. So you can put in the chat box a very brief information about you, your name, where you're joining from, the field, what you do, or probably you can also state what you are hoping to learn from today's session. And we can see if we can answer all of those questions, or if the guest speaker, Mr. Fidelis Onu, can keep that in mind as he speaks on the issue. So again, just before Mr. Fidelis comes in, we have the chat in the chat, the link to join the group. Please and please share that with your friends, with your contacts, and in 1 minute from now, we can have Mr. Fidelis come on board. Absolutely. And now we get into the conversation for the day. Once again, Mr. Fidelis Onu, thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Let us be sure that we can hear you loud and clear. Are you there? I'm asking you to unmute if you just see the prompts. Okay.
Okay.
Great. There you are. So for those joining and wondering, who is our guest today? Mr. Fidelis Onu. He is Director General of the Delta Association of Chambers of Commerce, and he oversees the effective administration of the state Central Chamber of Commerce, which is made up of 4 autonomous city chambers of commerce. And he's been doing this since October 1st, 2020. That's 2 years ago. Before that, alongside that, he has also been working in different capacities, being a facility manager at the Modern Market, Ugbolo Kosa. He also is currently a forum member of the Nigerian Electricity Regulation Commission, and currently as the representative of DASIMA on the NERC forum. He serves as a member that mediates between electricity consumer and service providers in Delta State. And in his capacity, he has resolved over 500 cases on behalf of different customers. He's also served or worked as the managing director of ISO Nigeria Limited since 1998. Talking about experience, lots and lots of experience, and he's been supervising the export of raw cashew nuts to Australia. So he's got so much experience and he's got so much that he wants to share with us today. And it is indeed our pleasure to have you, Mr. Fidelis Onu, on this episode of Talking Trade webinar. Welcome on board, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
It is our pleasure. Would you want me to put up your slide right now, or you want to just give some remarks before that?
You can put the slides up, but as before I even start to use them, I'll just want to chip in some things like you. Right. You can put it up right now.
Great.
As the presenter, mentioned, I have been around in the various capacities, serving in different capacities for a number of years. I've been into export myself as an SME. I have helped to set up export cooperatives in Delta State, one of which was at one time one of the largest, and in Delta State, because we had about 200 members in that cooperative export cooperative society. This was in 2015. And besides that, I'm a corporate member of the Nigerian Shippers Council. I'm the secretary for Delta Shippers Association. And one of the things we are trying to do is we're trying to push for the patronage of our eastern ports, in particular, the ones in Delta State, about 4 ports in Delta State. And for some strange reasons that we cannot fully comprehend, we do not see why they are not being optimally used. So that said, that's part of the reason why I believe Mr. Boyede asked me to come on this particular edition, talk to power. I will be trying as much as possible not to be academic, because I am not an academician. And at the same time, I'll try to respect people that I'm talking to. Hopefully, someone somewhere will listen and help us. Now, the first slide says that the importance of this is the interface between public and private sector as regards MSME development cannot be overemphasized, as the disconnect between the two sectors has been the bane of economic trajectory in a number of years. Subsequent governments have not been short of ideas. There's never been a problem where our governments have had issues with what ideas to implement and all that. Nigeria is one of the richest when it comes to ideologies, right? But our big challenge is that many times some of these ideas, before they become fully matured, for many reasons, some of which we'll mention in this presentation, do not fully achieve the purpose for why they were even formulated in the first place. So as laudable as these government policies may be perceived, subjective, there's a high level of subjectivity to this, some of these policies that we in the South, we often feel like maybe we're not being carried along, in the scheme of things in terms of government policies and all that, because there's certain things that happen and we get to know about it like maybe 3 months later, 4 months later, and those kind of things. So that's one of the things we hope that we can address in this presentation. Next slide. Now, in presenting this, I was thinking of what acronym would I use, and while I was a contractor in Shell those days, one of the styles of presentations they used then was the acronym called GROW, and the GROW stands for goals, realities, opportunities, way forwards. So please excuse my typographical errors, but I hope that the message is carried across. It is my hope that after this engagement, we can move beyond just rhetoric into actionable plans and fueled by passion and growth for the real sector and MSMEs in Nigeria. Next slide. A better understanding of the challenges. Goals is talking about, a better understanding of the challenges faced by the MSMEs, emphasize the need for stakeholders, public and private, understanding their roles in terms of MSME development, and suggest ways SMEs can succeed. Next slide. All right, realities is talking about the challenges facing the performance of MSMEs in Nigeria, to include, financial constraints, infrastructural challenges, management challenges. One of the things I would like to just talk briefly on these management challenges. Many MSMEs do not have a proper management structure, and that has been a big challenge for many MSMEs. When they come into business, they just feel that, okay, because there are not so many, they don't really need any assistance. One man is the CEO, the same person is the accountant, and the same person is the one, marketing his products and all that. I should know, I've been there, done that. So it's some of the challenges that many MSMEs meet. When you're doing contracting, it's easy for you to just multitask and, try and, meet with your clients, requirements without engaging other people that will help you manage the business, because you want to do everything by yourself. But that's also a challenge that many people have in the South and most parts of Nigeria. They want to believe they can do everything themselves. Marketing is another challenge. How do you market your products? Logistical challenges are also some of the things we are facing in as MSMEs or SMEs in Nigeria. Technological problems, poor entrepreneurial skills, government unfavorable fiscal policies. 1 minute you see the government is, raising interest rates. Before you know what's happening, the cost of loans become very, very draconian and not easy to access. That's a big challenge for many MSMEs, and we're hoping this can be changed. Policy inconsistencies. One government comes with a policy that looks like it's going to work. Currently, we're talking about ease of doing business. We do not know what the next government will want to channel their energies towards, and this can truncate a process that is just budding to develop. The multiple taxation. I wouldn't be able to talk about other states as much, but in Delta State, where I am resident, that has been a big challenge. Multiple taxation. Okay, opportunities. Free online and physical capacity building programs periodically organized by the organized private sector, private and public sectors. What does that imply? I'm sure we all know this from other past presentations and all that. There's need for capacity building. That cannot be overemphasized. In exports, SMEs must take advantage of grants provided by organizations like NEPC, but at the same time, the NEPC must do more to sensitize MSMEs. In Delta State, not many people were able to access the grants that NEPC brought forward last year in 2021. And this sort of like cut a lot of them out, largely because they didn't even know that such a thing was going on. So that's another problem that we have with accessing all these benefits. Some distribution companies are looking at supplying more stable power. By distribution companies, we're talking about the people that supply the electricity, the last chain of supply chain in the power sector. You know, so that's another opportunity. They want to provide electricity power or more stable power to clusters, business clusters and industrial parks. There are some of which we are working on currently in Delta State, and I'm also part of people trying to drive for that in Delta State through the Delta Association of Chambers of Commerce. Many B2B platforms provide free e-commerce services MSMEs can leverage on to grow their markets digitally. We're talking about the digital age, you know. So it's a little bit compulsory for MSMEs to now take advantage of the opportunities to scale up their businesses and scale up their markets, you know, market reach and all that using digital aid. It's minimal cost but great advantage. Next slide. Next slide, please. Now, there's also the opportunities given by the Nigerian Stock Exchange, you know, which is actively trying to, you know, provide platforms by which SMEs can grow their business through, you know, things like the initial public offerings, IPOs, you know, where you can bring your idea or your business to a larger investor base that can see opportunities in your business and invest in it, provide you the much needed capital. So these are opportunities for SME growth in Nigeria as a whole. Way forward, giving people a sense of belonging. You know, get the youth involved in energy transition programs. That is, I mean, there are so many opportunities in the power sector that youths and women-based organizations can leverage on and grow their businesses. Maybe in terms of providing power, you know, alternative power, or providing meters and all this kind of stuff. There's a huge gap in the metering sector, you know, that can be filled up. Encourage youth involvement in export for survival initiatives. That's what NEPC is currently pushing, exports for survival, because without exports, we all know that we cannot get the much needed revenue that we need to cause our currency to improve in value. Liberalize the oil and gas sector to give room for more participation of youths in refining and marketing of our oil and gas products. You see, Niger Delta or the South region is very rich in oil. One of the biggest disservices that the country will do is if they close out the people that actually are the host communities of this great resource. You know, a lot of them are talented, they have the skills to even set up their own crude refineries. We think that it's high time that rather than blacklisting them or witch hunting them, the government finds a way to work with them and try to harness their energies into doing something more productive and more legal that will benefit their environment. You know, engaging host communities in the ownership and security architecture of the coastal communities. We're not just talking about protecting the oil pipelines now. We're also talking about, you know, guarding our ocean resources. Many vessels come in, you know, make away with our fish, enter our export exclusive zones, and just make away with our fish and other marine resources without recourse to the host communities or even to Nigeria. Some of them do not pay the necessary duties they're supposed to pay for doing these things. Either they underquote or do different things to try and deceive our people and make away with things that our own host communities should benefit from. You know, that's another challenge. Oh, that's something that is a way forward. It's a challenge, but it's also a way forward. Engaging the support of both. Sorry, can you go back to the next one, please? Engaging the support of both local and international agencies in sensitization of the youth through awareness programs and education. You know, one of the things that we keep repeating over and over is that there's great need for sensitization. You know, public sector sensitization, private sector sensitization, and that interface between the two, so that both sides can work better. Next slide. Okay, the REA, Rural Education Agency, also to do more in sensitizing the public on accessing off-grid energy solutions. Off-grid energy solutions. That's, you know, right now, since there's so much uncertainty surrounding the national grid. You know, renewable energy is another source for growing energy access and power so that industries can benefit, you know, especially in remote areas. People that are into fishing in the coastal regions and all that, they need this for their refrigerating or cooling of their products that they bring from the sea. You see, so that's one way to government can, you know, help grow MSMEs in coastal regions and even in the hinterlands. You know, ports in the littoral states are critical to SME development. You know, and in area, especially in the area of trade facilitation. So we're all trying to talk about the ease of doing business, all these encumbrances about, you know, duties, high cost of duties and all that, or port charges, discourage, you know, SME development in that aspect, in the ports, in the maritime sector. So we think that these are opportunities that we can leverage on if we see them as opportunities. Then the chambers of commerce, which I belong to, should host more trade shows, trade fairs, trade exhibitions, you know, and trade exchanges that will grow MSMEs, give them opportunities to level most. Hello?
Yes, your video freeze for a moment, but you're back. Please proceed.
Okay. Okay. Sorry that the screen looks like it's to the right, but that's okay. So government on every level must prescribe illegal or multiple taxations. You see, how can a businessman who is trying to survive in today's world finds it difficult to cope because one agency is coming to tax on this, maybe water, another one is coming to tax on billboard, another one is coming to tax on, you know, different things, and all these things, levies and all that, do not help our SMEs in any way, form, or fashion. They even end up making the thing. So we're thinking about the situation whereby everything is harmonized, you know, and microfinance banks are doing a very poor job in meeting the financial requirements of MSMEs, you know, and the government should ensure the reduction of these interest rates on, you know, for instance, when I was doing one of my first export in 2009, I was being charged 36% for the loan I was trying to access at that time. It was very expensive, but because at that time I was very desperate, I wanted to do the business. I wanted to meet up with my clients' requirements. I agreed to it, and you know, these are the challenges. And again, when you approach bodies like Nexim, you know, you are not even encouraged. They give you their requirements that many MSMEs cannot meet, and that's the blunt fact. I remember in Benin in 2015. I went with a delegation of MSME, not just MSME associations that were trying to see how to partner with Nexim in providing information, much needed information for SMEs that wanted to access some kind of financial interventions from Nexim. And we were not encouraged in the list, you know, so that was very deplorable. We were very surprised. We were about 8 people strong that went for that meeting. And the person in question did not encourage us. Instead, was telling us that people in the South are not serious. I mean, how can a public servant say that? So these are the challenges some of us face, or some MSMEs face, trying to access financing from different sources or public sector. Timelines should be set for policy implementation, and action officers should be held accountable for their implementation. We cannot have policies, very laudable as they may be, set out and nobody monitors them, or they just leave them so open-ended. They don't give timelines to say that, okay, before this government leaves office, these and these and these and these should be achieved. There must be deliverables, and whoever is responsible must give account for what he's asked to do this. We don't see this happening most times. You know, investment infrastructure is key, but equally as important as monitoring these investments. It's just as important when you are investing in infrastructure, the government is investing in infrastructure, trying to create the enable environment. It's also important that this investment is overseen or monitored so that there is meaningful impact and accountability for these investments. Enough of white elephant projects as these kill SMEs. So in a nutshell, what we're saying is that it cannot be business as usual. The way the government is, the way the country is, there is need for creative thinking, disruptive innovation, thinking out of the box to seeing how the government and the public sector can harness the resources in the MSME space. UNIDO says that, I saw a write-up recently that UNIDO says that MSMEs make up close to about 96%. They account for 96% of all business activities in Nigeria. So, I mean, it's an important space that needs to be really harnessed so that we can see radical changes. We don't want a situation whereby in the midst of so much wealth, there's so much poverty, not because we don't have the resources, but because maybe the leadership is lacking in vision or interpretation of the vision so that there can be continuity, there can be implementation and all these things. So we are saying, or I am saying in particular, comes a time where the needful has to be done and the foot has to be put down. People that need to be called to accountability need to be called to accountability. People in certain sections of the country should not be seen as better than others in other sections, right? I didn't want to go into details concerning what the officer in Nexim actually said to us on that day, because I don't see any need for indicting anybody. But it was very, very discouraging. It made it look like maybe the people of the South are not serious people. In fact, those were her exact words. They were not serious people and all that. So that's not very encouraging. Yes, there are programs in place to try to encourage, MSME growth in Delta State or in the South, but they are few and far between. And even those that exist are not really known about. There's so much that needs to be done in terms of, sensitization, creating awareness, so that people can know this thing. Sometimes some of these laudable programs have to be domesticated on a very grassroots level. If we want the MSMEs to grow, if we want the rural-urban move to be curtailed, people run from the rural areas because they don't see opportunities there. Meanwhile, they are sitting in the midst of opportunities. I was in Cocoa yesterday at the seaport. I went for a fact-finding mission on the seaport. And on my way to the seaport in Cocoa in Delta State, I mean, to the left and to the right, the land is very arable. I saw hectares upon hectares of palm produce, palm oil plantations to the left and the right. But these plantations are owned by mostly one company, one organization. There are many individuals of that place who are not benefiting from the palm produce growing in their land. So these people who own this palm produce, the company that owns most of the palm produce there, what they do is that they process it and they export it. The people in that locality don't really benefit as much in terms of employment or training or corporate social responsibility. So that's another thing that I think needs to be looked at. And the seaport on its own is another area that needs to be looked at. That's a very big potential for revolutionizing our economy and all that. But if you get there, not much activity is going on there, not much engagement is going on there in terms of the ports authorities and the host communities. Not much engagement. From the surface, you may think nothing is happening until you go in. You now see that some people are actually taking advantage of the ports and exporting from there. Real export is going on from there, but people don't really know. A lot of SMEs don't know. I mean, when I posted my video on my trip to Cocoa Port, many people were shocked that export was even really going on from Cocoa. The impression we have is that most of the export has to be done outside of the Niger Delta, or if at all, maybe on airport in Rivers State. That's where it ends. So some of these things go down straight to lack of information or poor dissemination of information. So at that stage, I would stop now so that if anybody wants to contribute or maybe ask a question, they can.
Thank you so very much for that very passionate presentation. You promised not to make it academic, and it wasn't. And I love the way you spoke with passion. I took a lot of notes. I saw that a few other people were also taking notes. I saw Mr. Boide writing very as if it was a classroom presentation. And so I just dropped a note for you in the chat. Our guest speaker, Mr. Fidelis Onu, if you can have a look at that. But I learned a lot, and that was our guest speaker, Mr. Fidelis Onu, the Director General of the Delta Association of Chambers of Commerce, and also the Secretary for the Coalition of South-South Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines, and Agriculture. He spoke a lot about, spoke to the topic, which is speaking truth to power, the role of, just a minute. Here we are. Speaking truth to power, unveiling the challenges of MSMEs in Nigeria. And as much as he used very real life experiences from the South-South, many of you would agree with me that it is more or less the same across other parts of the country and possibly in a few other countries. And I love that all his presentation did not just voice out his concern, but also very clearly put forward recommendations, particularly with the last slide, we talked about the way forward. And most of all, Mr. Fidelis Onu, I must say thank you for keeping to time. It gives us enough time to engage with you a bit further. But just before that engagement, I would like to welcome one of our team members, Mr. Haruna Ibrahim, to share with us some highlights from the presentation, just through the lens of the participant's perspective. What are the highlights from this presentation? Mr. Ibrahim, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sayi, for that. Mr. Fidelis, what a great presentation. Before going to that, I want to quickly give a survey that was done by the Small and Medium Enterprises Development SMEDA Agency, and also the National Bureau of Statistics. So they did a survey and they put the micro, small, and medium enterprises. They actually represent around 39.6 million, right? And also, they also went further to actually talk about, in terms of their contribution to the GDP, they contribute 46.3%, right, to the country's GDP. And also, they also amounted for 97 and 96.7% of the businesses in Nigeria. So looking at that, you can see that this is great representation. And looking at what you have just said from the South-South perspective, in terms of how the South-South need to be taken more serious and how they need to be supported. You broke down your presentation in different stages, right? From the goals, right? What are the goals of the stakeholders, right? The stakeholders need to first understand their roles in the development of MSME in Nigeria, right? Then you went and talked further about what are the realities, right? What are the challenges, right? And you mentioned those challenges such as financial constraints. You talk about lack of infrastructure. You talk about leadership issues. And also you talk about marketing issues as well. Other things include logistic, lack of entrepreneurship skills, lack of government, good policies or enabling environment. And also you mentioned multiple taxations. Then you went further to talk about, in terms of the opportunities, right? What are the opportunities that we can actually take advantage of, right? In terms of grant from NEPC, you talk about power, providing more power, right, to all those industrial parks, so that these companies can actually take advantage of that to be able to use it. You talk about taking advantage of free e-commerce and services provided by B2B platforms, right? You also mentioned Nigeria Stock Exchange. And one point you mentioned around that is that a lot of people do not even understand the advantage of the Nigeria Stock Exchange. Why? Because there are lack of information, there are lack of education, and people don't actually know what they need to do to be actually take advantage of that. Then you also talk about how do we move forward from this point, right? And you have so many points around that, right? Getting youth involved in programs such as digital transformation, educating them about export survival initiatives. And you also talk about the need of the oil and gas industry to actually ensure youth participation, right, in refinement and actually in export and encourage them and give them the opportunity to actually do that. You also talk about giving the local community to actually participate, right? To have a say and to have an ownership in the development of the environment and also participate in the business. You talk about the need for the local and international community to help in developing the youth as well, right? That's very great point. You also talk about how do we stamp out multiple taxations? We have a lot of illegal and multiple taxations, which is not good for this MSME. And you also talk about making sure we make electricity supply available, right? You talk about, when you started your point, you talk about the abandonment of the ports, right, in the South, right? And you stress the need for actually making use of those ports. And you talk about the commerce, change of commerce, which we are part of, the need to actually carry out more trade shows where the MSMEs can just participate, and this can actually let them to learn about take advantage of people that's going to participate in international communities and other businesses, and be able to share notes and be able to actually get investment from that trade shows or investors. And you talk about the access to finance, right? The high interest rate is killing our businesses in Nigeria. And you talk about the need to actually have low interest rate. And you talk about your experiences from Nexim Bank and how they were so unprofessional in their approach. And also you talk about the need of other financial institutions to make sure they make access to finance very easy and with low interest rate, and also maybe backup industry and other financial institutions. Then one point you mentioned that is also crucial is the White Elephant project in your area, the need of the government to ensure that how do we invest, ensure investment in impactful projects that actually show that actually can help to grow the local economy, right? So making sure that we invest in projects that have meaningful impact to the local economy is very important, right? And that's will be the need of the government to make sure they do that, instead of everybody trying to do project and not completing it and do other projects, right? And that was a great point. So overall, I wanted to say that it was a great presentation, and I hope I'll be able to do justice to give a brief summary of your presentation. I want to say thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Many thanks indeed, Mr. Aruna Ibrahim. So right now we get into that engaging part. I made a lot of, I see the chat is already buzzing back and forth. So prepare your question, use the raise hand function, and we'll get you to speak. But just before we get into that, let's ease ourselves a bit and take a very quick break.
This webinar is brought to you by Talking Trade and Investment Global, TATRIC. We are live on Facebook at Export Digest. Kindly follow our Facebook page. Also, do subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can follow us on Twitter at Export Digest TV.
Great. Thank you so much for sticking with us, and welcome back. This is the November edition of the Talking Trade and Investment Global webinar series. And we've had the pleasure of listening to Mr. Fidelis Onu, the Director General for the Delta Chambers of Commerce and Industry. And right now we get to ask him some questions. If you have questions, please use the raise hand function and we'll get you to speak. But I'll start with the convener, Mr. Olufemi Boyede. The floor is yours. If you can put on your video, that would be great, sir.
Unfortunately, I can't put on my video. I'm actually making this interjection on my phone. Somehow the modem on the laptop has been acting up, and it went off several times while Mr. Onu was making his presentation. But I do have a few crucial points that I want to bring up. That's why I raised my hand, and thanks for giving me the floor, Sheyi. Thank you again, Mr. Onu, for taking out time to be with us. Why this? One of the reasons why today's session is important to us at Talking Trade and as practitioners in Nigeria is because in our several previous engagements with power, that is the public sector, government to be precise, and I do have somebody here, a veteran soldier, a foot soldier, who understands what I'm saying, Dr. Johnny Semede. We have come to the conclusion that it would always sound Greek to them being power, whatever we're saying, unless there is what the private sector has now coined as evidence-based feedback. So unless we have evidence-based feedback from players, these government agencies probably permit the use of the word, underestimate the challenges out there. And that's why when I spoke with you for the first time, the kinds of instances that you were given, how we appear as a nation to be actually underestimating the oil that is being stolen from the South, the Niger Delta, the oil producing area, how youth unemployment actually is responsible in part or in a great part to the myriad of vices and crimes that are pervading the Nigerian nation and stuff like that. So I'm happy you've been able to outline a few of these. But talking about the MDAs, I'm talking of MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies of government on their own. We have had here over the past few months, we have had two chief executives, the Executive Director of the Nigeria Export Promotion Council, Dr. Ezra Yakusak, as well as the Director General of SMEDAN, Small Medium Enterprise Development Agency of Nigeria, addressing us as guest speakers on this platform. And usually when we bring these people, it is to facilitate access to these agencies and their programs. But the kinds of evidence-based feedback that we are getting is that while the CEOs, the heads of these agencies, actually mean well and are almost equally as passionate or sometimes even more passionate than those of us lesser mortals in this side of the divide, the impact of their activities is actually probably not quite felt or not properly communicated. So I would like to know from your experience leading a membership-based organization and being a part of several membership-based organizations who should be tapping into government programs and projects and activities that are going on. And I want to put you on the spot with a particular illustration. SMEDAN spent 4 days or 5 days, I can't remember. I'm not sure if Afi, the Commissioner of Commerce, Investment and Cooperatives of Edo State, I don't know if she has joined this session today, but they hosted an exhibition, an opportunities fair in Benin City that I believe is 1 hour's drive from Asaba. And you guys did not get the slightest inkling of it until I mentioned it to you on the day we were discussing. So I don't know if you can spend 1 minute to highlight or to first and foremost answer sincerely. Are you guys actually feeling the impact of the various government agencies? If not, what is your experience about how the programs and projects are communicated and whether they permeate your part of the country? And like Sheyi said earlier on, we believe that whatever it is that you are experiencing probably is just an illustration of what is happening in other parts of the country. Thank you. Sorry, my question and intervention took a little bit longer, but of course, we need to put it into perspective.
Okay, do I respond?
Yes, please, you can proceed with your response.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Boyede, for your question. And it's more like a question and contribution at the same time.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
The sad thing, I have to be honest with you, since you know, I'm trying my best possible not to sound too indicting and all that, but the honest truth, or from our experience, you know, many of these people who occupy some of these very crucial positions or offices, you know, in the MDAs, a lot of them are just there for the salary. They're not really there to really see to it that their tasks and targets given to them by their bosses are actually permeating all the way to the people that matter the most, which are the MSMEs. Can you imagine? Every now and then I reach out to some of these people. I reach out to them, talking to them on by email and WhatsApp and all that, introducing who I am and all that. And more often than not, you know, the only time they try and take some of them take me seriously is when I now appear in their offices in Asaba. Our headquarters, or the headquarters of the Chamber of Commerce, is not in Asaba. Is in another local government area, about 2 hours drive, 2 or 3 hours drive. But due to the floods now, it's hovering around 3 to 4 hours drive from Asaba to where my head office is in Okpe local government area. That's where the head office of the Chambers of Commerce is, right? And sometimes I have to shuttle down, at least when it was 2 hours from where I am to Asaba, I had to shuttle down to Asaba to go and meet with some of these MDAs, officers in these MDAs, to talk to them about what is required, what should be done, you know, how these laudable interventions or schemes or initiatives can permeate, you know, partnering with the organized private sector, which comprises of, you know, the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, you know, NASME, NASI, then DASIMA and all that, you know, to see that these projects or schemes get to the people that matter. You know, I mean, the gentleman who summarized my presentation also alluded to that percentage I was even talking about when I mentioned you need those estimates on SMEs as a very key factor to the economy. 96% of the businesses are run by SMEs or MSMEs, and yet they don't even know when some of these programs come to for their own benefit, except if it's politically driven. Maybe the politicians want to see how they can leverage on some of these programs to gain political points. That's when you start seeing some of these schemes trickling down all the way to the grassroots. This is what has been a big pain and a bane to the whole scheme of things. And we just I'm grateful for this kind of program. I hope that such programs really have the people that matter listening in, coming in and participating, so that they can get real-time feedback. You know, Sweden, I just mentioned now, you say that they did a program in Benin or Edo State. There's even another one I heard, just by the way, even after I engaged the officer in charge of Sweden in Delta State, you know, I still heard about another one, by the way, like out of the grapevine that they did in Calabar, you know. And, you know, for many of us in Delta State, we didn't hear about it. We didn't know about it. So many people didn't know how to participate or, you know, benefit from such a program. Even the one in Edo State, which is just next to us, you know, the cocoa pot in question is just about, it's like 30 minutes away from Benin main city by road. If you're driving, it's not a far distance. But before you get there, the road network between Edo State and Delta State is deplorable. You know, so you can imagine most of the exports even going on in cocoa seaports today, as of yesterday while I was there, comes from Edo State, but at great pains to the logistical pains to them. You understand what I'm saying? So all these kind of things, and the government knows this. They know about this. I mean, there are people even bigger than me who have tried to escalate the issue or escalate these challenges. You know, the disconnect between the public sector and the private sector. The people much, at a higher place than me, have tried to call government's attention to this on the federal level and on the local state level, and even on local government level, but they don't do anything until this political season, like what we are in now. So that's when they be, some interventions or some semblance of, responsibility starts to manifest. But once that is over, I pray it won't be like that next year. But that's what we've been saying. You understand? That's what we've been saying. It's very pathetic.
I don't want to get emotional, but let's see. We still have about 15 minutes to have this conversation. I see John Isimede's hand up. I see Omolara Akonji's hand up. But I'm just going to read a bit of questions. Engineer Ifeanyi, I think Mr. Fidelis Onu has answered your question that yes, as at yesterday, export is still being done via the cocoa pots. Just responding to the question you have in the chat. I would give the mic to Mr. John Isimede. He has put 2 comments in the chat, but I think he can just voice all of that and also make his contribution right away. Mr. John Isimede, the floor is yours, please.
Oh, thank you very much. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I am not a young boy or somebody who is coming to the export or cocoa pot or data today. The truth of the matter is that I was the former Director General of the Chamber of Commerce, and I was the one managing the chamber in the whole.
I'm afraid we cannot hear you again, Mr. John Isimede. Well, I think it's kicked you out. We've experienced this a number of times earlier today, but let's hope we'll get you back. Madam Omolara Akonji is also out, but Mr. Solomon Ogunleye has his hand up also. Let's see if we can welcome Mr. Solomon Ogunleye, and then we'll go back to Mr. John Isimede and Madam Omolara Akonji. Mr. Solomon Ogunleye, the floor is yours, please.
Yes, thank you, the moderator. You see, Niger Delta is a very beautiful place to work with. I'm a retired custom officer, and I will worry for on two transfers, if I will use that word. I like all what the Director General has said. He put up the matter as it was. But I don't want to repeat what I said. I don't want to add two caveats. Number one, the channels, the worry channels, particularly, if you can ask worry, you can easily get to cocoa and the other forecast or not the rest. The worry channel, the channel is too shallow. If I mean, I'm talking in terms of trade facilitation and the ease of doing business there. If the DG can approach the mass and let them do something on the channel, it's shallow. Maybe in Wadi Port, while we were there are some types of ships that cannot get there. Wadi Port is essentially an export port, although they do imports, through the port, but it's essentially an export port. Now, if they can do something on the channel, and then the security of the area, that's another thing. Then I want to talk on attitudinal change of the officers, MDAs, attitudinal change, the way some of them act. Even while I was there, the way they are anti-trade. Now I'm out, and I'm into consultancy, trade and customs now. So I know there are some attitudes of some operatives there. Then I will advise the chamber to make sure that they are members in whatever they do, they factor integrity into it. Once they are doing the right thing, they can speak truth to power at any level. But I will advise them that they should add integrity in whatever they are doing. Thank you. That's just my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks for keeping it brief. Mr. Fidelis Onu, any direct response to that before we welcome?
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to quickly respond to him. Thank you, sir, for what you said, and it's very interesting to know somebody that knows the environment. One thing I must let you know is that since 2000 and very quickly 2014, the president of the Delta Shippers Association, another association I belong to, was part of the ministerial committee on revitalization of the Eastern ports, right? And for a long time they've been championing the dredging of the Escravos Bar or the Escravos Channel. It is only, I think, last year / this year that was finally done. It has been dredged, So the draft now is it hovers between 6.5 meters or thereabout. So it's not like very huge vessels can come, but vessels bringing in cargo, vessels bringing in wet cargo have always been coming. Whether it was not 6.5 or not, they've been coming. But now general cargo vessels can come because it has been dredged. Now the cocoa port in particular, the cocoa tea port in particular, is 8.5 or 8.7 meters in draft. That I found out yesterday, right? And so export is going on actively there. Export is going on actively, not in the volume that we would like to see, but it's much more active than Warri Port. In fact, Warri Port, nobody really uses that place for export. Most people are using cocoa port, and that should be good news for people living in the eastern region, businesses like the people in Onitsha, Newi, and all that. That should be good news for them. Some of them are already accessing it, so it's not a new thing. But the thing is that people don't really know about it. Now, to talk about your previous organization very quickly, Customs. Just recently, I tried to bridge a kind of courtesy visits between our association and the customs office in Warri Port that you worked in at one time or the other. And the PRO of that place was incredibly unfriendly. So I had to ask her at one point, are you really a public relations officer or what? So she took offense and maybe reported to her boss, who now reported to one of the presidents of the city chambers, who now got in touch with me and was telling me that, look, you should know that these people are paramilitary, so you don't expect that they will sound normal to you. I said, if that's the case, they should leave the place and go and join the army. Why are they paramilitary? They might as well just become full-blown military. If that's what they are, the urge is in them. If you're going to be dealing with the public who you are working for, because at the end of the day, the port services and everything to do with trade facilitation is to make things easy for people like us who are actively involved in export or import in one form or the other, not to make problems. The Chamber of Commerce is trying to bridge the gap so that we can have better understanding of what you are doing. And yet you're telling the person that the person is disturbing you. That was very rude of the person. So to answer your question about integrity, yes, we are looking at integrity is an issue for every sector, private or public,
Absolutely.
and it's something we try to live by. So I hope I've answered the question.
Thank you very much. I'm also going to pass the mic very quickly to Okwase Udensi, and then Mr. John just after that. I see he's back in the room now. Okwara Udensi, please. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for giving me the floor to speak. I will just do maybe 2 minutes, max, to talk thank you for organizing this event, and also thanks to Mr. Fidelis Onu, who has also given us this brief. I am the chairman of MAN, Edo Delta. So based on what he's actually talking about, we know a little bit more, since I manage the whole industries that are within the Delta and Delta State and Edo State. So most of the things he has enumerated, it's a fact. And it's, for me, when we have this kind of gathering, this kind of meeting, there should be a take-home. And how do we channel this take-home to the power that will be, that power that be? Because most time, we continue to have an interaction with them and nothing comes up. One of the things I also wanted to mention to tell the DG, that when you talk about the other man talked about the channel, the channel dredging, the channel of the Escravos River. I can tell you, the channel, you go to those people, they will tell you it's been dredged. What was dredged is the estuary outside, because I am involved, I'm quite experienced in the maritime industry. What was done is when you go to the estuary, we'll call it estuary, before you arrive even to the main waters of the Chanomi Creek and the Focados rivers that take us to Warri Port, those places has not been dredged. So if you do the estuary and you don't dredge the high spots along the Escravos River, from the Escravos River you come into the Chanomi Creek. From the Chanomi Creek you now enter into the Focados River. From the Focados River you now go into the Warri River, where you now come into the port. Those areas are not dredged, and that has been the problem where vessels cannot come to the port. So I think these are the things. If we know this, when people tell us that these places have been dredged, we should be able to interrogate them and tell them this as part of the problems. So for me, government should come up openly to say, okay, I want to dredge the Warri Channel. And Warri Channel Warri Port can only be effectively used when there is what we call channel management, because the Warri Port is almost about 78 kilometers from the port. So for that length of channel, there are bound to be siltation along the channel. So if you don't maintain it, after dredging it, it will all come back again. So I think that's one of the things I also want to let you know, the DG. So in case you're interacting with these people, you definitely will. But at the end of it all, what I want to add is to say thanks for this, but let's continue to put on the pressure. Let's continue to talk to the power that will be, because for me, we have been engaging the state governors, talking with them, but most time, government have not realized the importance of the SMEs in this country. I can tell you, when I come to the government have not realized that. And I wonder how we can make them to realize it. It is only when government realizes it, we can make a headway. Thanks so much for this opportunity.
We must thank you most sincerely, Mr. Udensi, for that, for coming up. I mean, when we talk about people on this space, we really appreciate the fact that we appreciate the quality of the people that are, very willing to commit their time to have this kind of conversations with us. Thank you so much again, DG Edo Chambers of Commerce, right? Mr. Okwara Udensi, and Mr. Solomon Ogunleye from the Nigerian Customs, who spoke earlier. Just for the sake of time, we'll pass it to our very respected John Isimede, and then to Madam Omolara Akonji, and we can get Mr. Fidelis' feedback from the two of them, and then we can begin to wrap up. Mr. John Isimede.
Good evening, and thank you, Mr. Fidelis. It is very interesting. I am from this part of the country, Edo Delta. The truth of the matter is that we are not going to blame the government, because most of these MDA were set out to favor a group of people. And secondly, when you see them in events, they always send people to come and read their statutory functions and what they have inserted. The culture of export and quick money will not allow. That is the problem we have with the SMEs. It is interesting and beautiful to say that as the former Director General of NASIMA, I have been in the chamber movement across the globe for more than 30 years. And in Delta, you have Okwe, you have Warri, you have Asaba, you have Osioko, you have Saple and Etu. So also you have South Chamber of Commerce. Most of these chambers are in private pockets. I don't want to wash our ninis in the public. As soon as we finish, please let us talk one-on-one. How do you get members? And who are these members? What do they do? The last time, when I came to Delta in 2010, I got the information that for 10 years, there was no trade fair in Delta State. And even when we organize trade fair in Nigeria, who do we see and what do we exhibit? 99% of imported goods. Chambers are not under one umbrella. As we are sitting down there now, a lot of chambers have gone to South Korea with members' money and all that. And when they come back, we don't even see technical report. So these are things we need to do to come together. When you are talking of cocoa pot and all that, let us give it to this guy who was the head of NEPC office in Benin.
McPherson.
McPherson. I went to Delta. I went across the ports with him, and we dragged people from east, west, and everywhere that you can use cocoa pot. And so also Ames was constructing a warehouse in Benin. All those things we don't have in Delta State. Your governor in Delta was my contemporary in the secondary school and all that. So some of us can talk to some of them one-on-one. But our obstacle is not mainly the MDAs. We, the chambers, we are not operating together because in Benin Republic, it's only one chamber running the country. That is why sometimes when you see certificates of origin from Nigeria, people are demanding 13. When I wrote a letter, that is not only a Ramsay report. I have more than 60 chambers of commerce in Nigeria. Some are in private home and private pocket, which we don't know. None known by NASIMA, none known by CAC. So after this meeting, please let us talk. Thank you.
Hello?
Yes, thank you very much. Mr. Fidelis, I know you want to respond, but let's see if we can very quickly sink in Madam Omolara Akonji's comments very quickly. And thank you so much, Dr. John Isimede, for that.
Well, thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I think Mr. Isimede had said a lot about what I wanted to say, but the bottom line is integrity. The bottom line is integrity, and I'm very happy at the presentation of Mr. Fidelis, because he has spoken the truth to power. And my major concern is the fact that all these MDAs, even if we say they are not the real issue, they are the bane of concern for all the MSME in Nigeria, because when they are set up, they have mission and vision, but they are never, addressing those vision and mission to impact the public, the MSME that they were set up to oversee. For example, NEPC and NIPC, they should relate in the sense that even Nexim that didn't give you a good reaction when you went to them, Mr. Fidelis, NEPC and NIPC should bridge that gap. We don't need to go to Nexim, even though Nexim is set up to help export, import related financing. But what about NIPC? What are they doing with NEPC? Nigeria Investment Promotion Council. A lot of investments comes into NIPC that can help MSME that they have not done. It goes into private pockets, just as Chief Isemede said. A lot of things had gone wrong. At this period of the year, MDAs, they are spending the money that they have budgeted for and they have not used. They will do all sorts of trade fair that is not known to the stakeholders, and the thing goes into their pockets. So it is good that we say all these things and package it and let the minister that is in charge of all these things get to know what is going on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Omolara Akonji. For those that have been joining over the years, you know that she is one of our most constant, most passionate, and most experienced participants on Talking Trade. It's about time we begin to round off. Mr. Fidelis Onu.
Yes, but not until I... Hello, Shay.
Yes, yes, Mr. Fenboide.
Let me just quickly interject here before Mr. Onu comes up. I want to I had read Doctor's contribution in the chat box earlier, and I want to side with her. There was a time in earlier administrations where the SGF, the late Ufot Ekaite, was so concerned about getting people to break their territories. It was in his office for the first time that we attacked the issue of territorialization. There is no doubt that trade is two ways. Where it is export on one side, it is import on the other side. So it's always import-export trade. And to that effect, it also implies that investment comes in, investment into the production for export. So they just have no reason not to go hand in hand. In fact, if you ask me, I don't have access to Oronsaye's report, but I would say, for example, a country like Malaysia has not segregated these agencies from each other. I think they are all under one Ministry of Import, Export, and Investment and stuff like that. They're all in one place. So when we have an Nigeria Investment Promotion Commission, for example, attracting FDI into an industry that wants to set up in Nigeria for 100% production for export, the first place, of course, should be the Nigeria Export Promotion Council. And this, I believe, during the time of, as soon as the Buhari administration came up, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, has been hammering on the annoyance, the dissatisfaction of his administration to the silo mentality of the agencies under under the same government. Is it Chino Achebe that said, if things fall apart, the center is definitely not going to be able to hold? So I want to believe that, sincerely, one of the conclusions that we are getting here today, the recommendations, is to again reiterate, we are not rediscovering, we are not the first to say it. It is to reiterate the need for interagency cooperation and collaboration. If not, we're not going anywhere. And the other thing I wanted to say is to tie Dr. Isemede and Mr. Udensi's contributions together to actually request, please, if you have, like I mentioned, evidence base, if you have these statistics or these illustrations that can be used to advocate, to champion a pressure that will let power. Remember, the title of today's edition is Speaking Truth to Power, Unveiling the Challenges, so that we can pass on to the various agencies that will read this report. Please feel free to share them with us. Thank you, Sheyi. Over back to you.
Thank you very much. Just so we can round off once and all with final comments from our guest speaker, Mr. Fidelis Onu, I'll very quickly pass the mic to Bodo Sunday, and then we can get a closing remarks from Mr. Fidelis Onu. Mr. Bodo Sunday, the floor is yours, please.
Hello, good evening, all. Thank you for
welcome.
Please, I already have touched my question in the chat box. Thank you for inviting DG. Thank you, Mr. Fidelis Onu. This shows actually you're doing something. Can the group or the export trade invite any DG from the Southeast, at least to tell us how are they impacting people, just like Mr. Fidelis had done? Thank you very much. I'm very, very happy with Mr. Fidelis. Thank you.
Thank you indeed. Without any further ado, I also have some questions, but time would not permit. So, Mr. Fidelis Onu, please, the floor is yours. You've gotten lots and lots of comments and commendations And I saw you struggling a bit with the lights there, talking about challenges you're facing. But yeah, the floor is yours if you would just round off briefly. Thank you.
Well, hello?
We can hear you. Please go on.
Okay, so since time is already fast spent and against me, the little I would say is that, yes, the issue about the MDAs working together cannot be overemphasized, because that would prevent overlapping of functions or multiplicity of functions. There should be a single window or channel by which the SMEs can get their requirements met or meet with their requirements. A single channel. I thought that was why the presidential commission on that's PEBEC was formed, to try to make to harmonize the MDAs in addressing what they should be providing for what the SME should be getting and all that. The single channel that would prevent a lot of things. If there's a portal by which the SME can respond to customs, respond to NDLEA, respond and all that, maybe meet with questions, even CAC and all that. If there's a single portal like that, where like a one-stop shop, maybe that will help. Concerning exports from cocoa pot, I want to re-emphasize that I have even sent Mr. Femi a report. He didn't ask me to, but I just sent it to him from my trip to cocoa pot. Cocoa pot is actually working. It has facility. Yes, they may need certain things. That's an opportunity for investment for private sector. Some of their lapses are actually opportunities for private sector investment. So the channels that Mr. Udensi talked about, yes, he's very correct. But the latest is that the vessels can come through cocoa pot to do their import export. Cocoa pot has the deepest. It's a natural harbor. It's a natural harbor. It's about 8 kilometers to the main estuary. So the vessels don't have to travel far before they go into the sea or come in from the sea. So that said, a matter of integrity, I would like to say, as regards the chambers of commerce, trade fairs have been held in Delta State. There was a time that it was Edo Delta Trade Fair, and that was in 2005 or thereabout. Trade fairs have been held in 2018. I know this because I was chairman of the marketing committee for the trade fair in Delta State. Trade fair, the chambers of commerce is not owned by any one person. Like every other association, it has its own internal politicking and all that we also have a way to address. We do the change of ownership, the change of leadership through zoning. That's how we rotate the membership or leadership and all that. Madam Akanji, talked about NIPC. I, for one, do not even know what NIPC does. I know they exist. You understand? I know they exist, but I don't feel their impact. I don't know what they are. See, the bottom line, I wish that Mr. Femi Boyede would actually provide a platform whereby the people that need to hear this are actually hearing this. They will listen and they will hear. Because if we say all this, at the end of the day, maybe the report may get to them. They may read it. They may not read it. I don't know. But if they hear it raw, they hear the contributions raw, they now know that, oh, you mean the person I put in this office is not really doing his job. Oh, that can third-party information that all these ministries need. It's not just, oh, I send this person, the person comes back with a report that he may have doctored. There has to be credibility to that report, and that can only be done in third-party input. And that's what the chambers of commerce or any other OPS can provide. With that, and because of time, I will just stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you indeed. I thought Mr. Boyede wanted to make a quick response to that, particularly your comment about NIPC.
No, I will pass.
I know why you will pass. I know why you will pass. Mr. Fidelis, you will not be surprised to know that probably some very high-level NIPC officials are on this call. But it's good. I mean, it's fine to speak it as it is.
I wasn't indicting anybody. I was just speaking to power.
Exactly.
Speaking truth to power.
And we're glad you're able to do that. That's exactly our intention. On this note, we just have to say thank you indeed, Mr. Fidelis Onu, for not just a very rich conversation, but very conversational webinar today. Mr. Fidelis is the Director General of the Delta Association of Chambers of Commerce. He's also worked since June 2022. He's been the Secretary of the Coalition of the South-South Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines, and Agriculture. And over the last 1 hour, we've been having very rich, insightful conversation about speaking truth to power, trying to unveil the challenges of MSMEs, not just only in the South-South region, but also replica of other parts of Nigeria. We must say thank you to you, the listener, for your time. We really do appreciate that even on a weekend when you could be partying or just being with the family, you would always take out the first Saturday of every month to join us and listen to the Talking Trade webinar. We understand that we have very high-profile people on this space. I see Chief Kola Akosile. I see Madam Bosun Sholari. I doubt if she's missed any of our webinar. I see Uju Hassan. I see Madam Omolara Konji, former CBN Director. I see Solomon Ogunleye, former custom boss, and a lot of other people. For time's sake, I wouldn't be able to mention name. But indeed, it's just to express our gratitude to you for always being there every first Saturday of the month. We really do appreciate that. We do not take it for granted. And we hope that you would continue to be a part of subsequent editions of Talking Trade. We also want to say thank you to those that will be joining, that have joined basically on other platforms, on Facebook, on Twitter. And for you who is yet to connect with us on those other platforms, I have just put in the chat box the link to join us on every other platform. So it's not just once in a week that we meet here. Our resources are available on the website. We have this conversation going forward on WhatsApp. On YouTube, you find a video of all that all the webinars we've been doing since inception. And so you can always revisit any of them that you wish for. I also want to say one thing that I have been able to, that I really do appreciate about the conversation today is that connection that we've been able to build. So it's not just one person from, the South coming to express his grievances, but also experienced people coming on board to say, hey, we are ready to help. Hey, a lot more can be done. Hey, let's work together. And that's one of the things we are excited about as the organizers of the Talking Trade series. Now I must say thank you to those that work behind the scene. As I said when I started, I'm just standing in for Lady K today. Lady K has always been our host and our moderator on the Talking Trade webinar series, but she's recovering, and for that reason, I have been asked to stand in for her. I also want to say thank you to Dr. Olutaiwo. Thanks to Mr. Ibrahim Aruno. Thanks to Tomini Adebote, and of course, many thanks to the convener and the host, Mr. Olufemi Boyede. Because of the hard work that you all put into this, we are able to make this happen every now and then. Now, you may be wondering, when will the next webinar series be? December is here already. We've had 1 year stretch of the webinar series, and we will put it out on our social media platforms. We don't know if it will be the first week in December, if we'll be able to accommodate that, hopefully, or if it will be in January or February. But if you do follow us on our respective platforms, you will definitely be able to find the details of the next series of the Talking Trade session. And with that, I would like to call it a wrap, except I have any comments or reminders from the team. Mr. Femi Goede, maybe you can give a closing remarks or a thank you remarks.
Yeah, you forgot to thank yourself.
Oh, I am hereby thanked.
So on behalf of everybody, this time around, I'm part of us here, everybody, that's the participants in today's webinar. I want to say a very big thank you to my team. Like I always tell you guys, you think I'm just forming. You are definitely the greatest team in the world. And you helped me to, take so much burden off me that I'm actually probably considering myself as the laziest part of this team. You guys are just great, and I thank God. Also, on behalf of everybody, I wish our moderator, our anchor, the face of Talking Trade, Lady K, a speedy full recovery. Like Sheyi said, we had quite a number of people of power, people in power on today's platform. They have had and they will take. Indeed, a few minutes before the end, the director and regional head of NEPC in Southwest Nigeria, Mr. Samuel Oyeyipo, walked in on the program. Chief Kola Akoshile, Sheyi, I'm not too sure if you saw his comments. I want to reiterate what he has said, because when we talk about public-private partnership, somebody broke it down to public-public partnership, that is interagency collaboration, public-private partnership, and even private-private partnership. And Chief Akoshile, who wears, I don't know, maybe 3 caps. I would mention the 3 that I know that are very relevant today. Chief Akoshile is the Deputy National Vice President, MAN, Southwest. He's the Deputy National President, NASIMA. He is a former, what do you call it? Is it chairman now of Western Region Chamber of Commerce? He has stressed in the comment section the need to revive or resuscitate the regional meetings of the chambers of commerce. Of course, you guys will also have to tap into the experience and track record of Dr. John Isemede, who was actually National Director General of NASIMA. I think these are resources that are very, very available, and like Sheyi mentioned, you need to continue to tap into this. On this note, once again, I want to thank you all very much and appreciate God for giving us the health and the strength to keep going. Thank you all very much.